Let me tell you a story, not about a warrior or a queen, but about a woman who refused to be anything less than her full, powerful self. A witch, an enchantress, a goddess who made her own rules. This is the story of Circe. Circe was born at the edge of glory, a daughter of Titans. Her father was Helios, the sun itself. Not just a god, but the celestial fire that crossed the sky each day. Her mother, Perse, was a sea nymph, quiet and mystical, her power more whispered than roared. So you'd expect their daughter to be radiant, regal, born to command the heavens. But Circe wasn't like the others. Her beauty didn't shine. It glimmered strangely. Her voice wasn't divine music. It was deep, earthy, and oddly human. The gods noticed, and not in a good way. Circe didn't fit in among the polished halls of Olympus. She was curious, observant, and worst of all, she asked questions. While others flaunted their divine birthright, Circe worked with her hands. She crushed herbs, listened to the whispers of plants, experimented with strange mixtures. She discovered something rare in the immortal world: pharmakeia, the ancient magic of transformation. Her magic didn't flash across the sky. It simmered. It brewed. And that terrified the gods. They feared what couldn't be controlled, what wasn't inherited from Olympus, but earned by will. When Circe used her magic to transform a nymph out of jealousy, they exiled her, not for the act, but for the audacity of learning power without permission. And so she was cast out to the lonely island of Aiaia, far from the glittering courts of heaven. But exile for Circe wasn't punishment. It was freedom. She made Aiaia hers, a wild, lush island wrapped in mist and mystery. It bloomed under her hands, not with temples or gold, but with life. There were dense forests, moonlit gardens, wild herbs glowing in the dark, and animals. Lions, wolves, and serpents roamed freely, not in cages, but as her companions. They were once men, yes, but they were also loyal, gentle, and at peace in ways they never were in human form. Circe didn't see nature as beneath her. She lived with it. She listened to the rhythm of trees. She understood the language of roots and wind. Her magic was not about domination. It was about harmony. Aiaia wasn't a prison. It was a sanctuary. Not for everyone, but for anyone willing to unlearn the world's noise and relearn nature's silence. Now let's talk about the part that made her infamous. Why did Circe turn men into animals? Most people think it was cruelty, a petty, vengeful trick. But let's look closer. When shipwrecked men arrived on her island, many came with weapons and lust, assuming this woman alone in the woods must need their leadership, or worse, their dominance. So she offered them food, wine, and a choice. Those who came with hunger for power, they turned into what they truly were: pigs, wolves, brutes. Not because Circe cursed them, but because she revealed them. Her magic was a mirror. She didn't create monsters. She just unmasked them. In a way, Circe's spells were philosophical. They forced transformation, not just of body, but of truth. What are we when the masks fall? When nobody's watching? Circe saw it all, and she refused to let ugliness go unchecked. And then came Odysseus. In Homer's Odyssey, Odysseus and his crew land on Aiaia. His men predictably fall under Circe's spell and become pigs. But Odysseus? He's warned by Hermes, carries a magical herb to resist her spell, and confronts her. But instead of battling her, he listens. He speaks. He earns her respect. And something rare happens. Circe lets him stay. They live together for a full year. not as enemies or captor and captive, but as equals. She teaches him. He opens up to her. And when he leaves, she doesn't chain him. She gives him directions, helps him cross the land of the dead. Circe, once feared, becomes a guide, a healer, a lover. Not because she was conquered, but because someone finally treated her like a person, not a threat. While the Odyssey gave us her story, it's Hesiod's theogony that tells us her place in the divine world. Theogony is a kind of ancient Greek family tree of the gods, a mythic directory of who's who. And there, Circe isn't a footnote. She's a link between the gods and the mortals. It tells us that Circe bore 3 sons with Odysseus, the most famous being Telegonus, who later kills his father, unknowingly, and becomes a king in his own right. This makes Circe more than just a sorceress. She becomes a mother of dynasties, a part of heroic legend, quietly tying the divine to the human world. She doesn't just transform men, she births new futures. So why, in this age of science, cities, and screens, does Circe still speak to us? Because we still live in a world that fears women who don't fit a mold. We still fear quiet power. We still punish independence. And yet, like Circe, people are learning to grow roots in exile to make magic from wounds. Circe isn't about fireballs or fairy tales. She's about alchemy of the self, turning pain into power, loneliness into peace, and exile into a home. She reminds us, you don't need a throne to rule. You don't need an army to be powerful, and you don't need anyone's permission to become who you're meant to be. Circe's island was never just a place. It was a state of mind, a space for anyone tired of pretending, to rediscover who they are under the masks. She wasn't wicked. She wasn't cruel. She was wise, watchful, and free. So if you ever feel like you don't belong, like the world has cast you out, remember this: some of the strongest magic is born in exile, and sometimes being alone is where your real power wakes up. Which of these legendary anecdotes fascinate you the most? Let us know in the comments, and do not forget to like and subscribe Mythpaws for more such magical journeys.